All right, guys. Well, now that we got the front brakes installed on this thing, the all new rotors and calipers and all that, now we got to remove the manual master cylinder, the manual brake master cylinder, and then we have to replace it with the power brake master cylinder and the power brake booster. But I can tell you right now, I was just inside the car looking at the brake system, and we also have to replace the brake pedal on the inside. It's nearly impossible to get in there to get to this thing, especially when it's on a lift. So the easiest way to do this, at least as far as I'm concerned, is we're gonna have to remove the seat. So let's get underneath here and let's look at that, because this is a convertible, and convertible cars typically have extra bracing in them, okay? And this one's no exception. It's got this big wide brace that runs all the way across from one side of the body to the other. It bolts together in the middle so you can get the drive shaft and all that out. But the good news is you've got 4 holes right here where the seat bolts through from here. And the seat, it looks to me like it's got bolts welded to the seat mounts or the seat tracks, and you're just basically pulling that off the bottom side here. I think they're a 1/2 inch. Yeah. So let me get a 1/2 inch socket and a ratchet and a little extension, and we'll pull these 4 bolts out, and we should be able to get the seat out at that point. So that's not an easy thing to do, but we have to do it. Alright, where's my ratchet? Hey, what to do with it? Okay. Alright. Now we got to pull these 4 bolts out. We got about an 8-inch long extension here. Oh wow, those weren't even tight. That one there wasn't anyhow. Which is probably a good thing I checked this, because those bolts, nuts, whatever you want to call them. At least that one's not tight. Let's see if the other 3 are tight. There's one. Nope, that one's not tight. So basically whoever put these seats in just threw them in. So now I need to check the passenger seat and make sure that those 4 bolts are tight, because they're probably not. That's 2. See that? I can literally turn that just by grabbing that. And, I mean, that's not even close to being tight. These bolts should have been way tighter than this. All right, one more. And again, I just used my hand on the ratchet like that, and it broke right loose. Didn't have any problem breaking them loose at all. They weren't tight at all, not even close to being tight. So I guess it's a good thing we crawled underneath here and looked at this, because whoever put these seats in didn't bother to tighten the nuts up on them, on the seat studs. All right, we'll set those on the lift arm. All right, and now I got to come over to this side, and I'm not going to remove these, but I'd be willing to bet, yep, see, look, I'm literally tightening them up by holding my hand here. I'm not even holding my hand out at the end of the ratchet. All right, that one's tight. That one was a little tighter, but not much. There we go, that one's tight. Again, that one I can turn it by hand with my hand in the middle of the ratchet. So none of the seat bolts were tightened down as tight as they should be. All right. And since we're here, oh, that's the wrong size. Let's grab the right size. Should be a 9/16. I got one here somewhere. All right. Let's check these bolts. That one's a little loose. That one's a little loose. That one was pretty loose. That one was a little loose. That one was a little loose. That one was almost tight. So out of these 6 bolts, one of them was almost tight. The rest of them were loose. At least a little bit loose. All right, that brace is not going to come out of there. That's a good thing. All right, now we got to let the car back down and try to finagle the seat out of here without messing anything up. So we can get in there and get the brake pedal assembly out of the car. And I hope that we don't have to take the clutch and the brake pedal assembly out, but it kind of looks to me like we do, so I don't know, we'll see. All right, we got it sitting down pretty low now to the ground. And I'll bring you guys over here. But I got to pause it for a minute because I am going to go wash my hands again because I got a little oil on them. And I don't want to get oil on his nice new interior. So I'll be back in a second. All right. Now I hope I can get the seat out of here without having to drop the top, but we'll see. I definitely want to put a fender cover that's doubled over right here because I do not want this door to touch that lift. And I'm going to be in here. I think I can get this seat out, but I don't want this door to hit that lift, so I got a fender cover here that's doubled over to protect it from hitting that lift. All right, let's try to get this seat out. Should be pretty easy to do, I hope. Sucker's definitely heavy, I can tell you that much. Definitely got some weight to it. Okay. There we go. I was able to get that out without start from the top now. Okay. So I don't know how much you guys can see under here. Well, let me crawl under here first and look at this to kind of get an idea how this thing's got to come out, because I'm not sure what I got to do to get this pedal assembly out. The main thing I'm interested in now is getting the master cylinder out. So once I get that out, then we can figure everything else out. Let me crawl underneath there real quick and I'll take a look and I'll be back. All right, guys, I got the brake pedal, or the brake pedal out of the car, and it's a little tricky. It's really tight under there. I really would have a hard time showing you how to get it out, so I'm just going to try to tell you and explain it to you. So this is the old brake pedal. This is the new one, and if you compare them, obviously you can see they're exactly the same up to this point right here, and the difference is the manual brake pedal pivots here. The power brake pedal pivots here, and I think the reason for that is they want to give you more leverage to be able to push the brake pedal with. So it's going to give you a stronger brake actuation. Okay. So there's three things you got to do to get this pedal out. First thing you got to do is, one thing you got to do is you got to take this clip, this funny looking clip there. It goes in here and holds the brake switch in place. You pop that out with a pair of side cutters or needle nose pliers, and then the brake switch comes off, okay? And I couldn't get this off until I actually got the pedal out, but I got it loose, so I knew I could get it off. The cool thing about it is it has, on the inside, it has this notch. So, well, wait a minute. Actually, I think it goes that way. Yeah, I think it goes that way. But it's got this notch, which makes it easier to get off. But I don't know, maybe I don't know. I think it might should go that way, but I don't know. Well, when I put it back in, we'll figure it out. But anyhow, if it goes that way, you can pull it only part way off, and then it'll slide down and come off. That makes sense to me. If you had it this way, this notch area right there would do you no good at all. So I would think the notch area would go on the inside. So you got to get that loose. And this is the pin, the clip you pull to pull that out. Okay, and then the next thing you got to do is there's this funky looking clip here that you have to pry up on this and then slide it, and it engages a pin that goes through the brake, or through the clutch pedal. No, I'm sorry, through the brake pedal. Okay, there's a pin that goes through this brake pedal, and this clip sits like that, and you have to disengage this clip. So you pull. Try to get this where you can see what I'm doing here. You pull this part out, and then you slide it, and then it releases out. So you got to remove that. You can see what that looks like. I'll hold that up there for a second so you can see that. So you pull this part up, and then slide it, and it pops off. Okay, and what that does is the clutch pedal has got a rod welded to it, okay? And it goes through the bracket assembly under the dash and goes through here and out here, and this is what holds it all together. Is this clip right here holds it all together, okay? So once you release that clip, then you can get this out. The third thing you got to do is you got to pull this little clip here, and this clip holds the clutch linkage to the clutch pedal. And the reason you have to pull that out is because you have to pull the clutch linkage off of the clutch pedal, because the clutch pedal, the rod that goes through this brake pedal is welded over here to the clutch pedal, okay? So then you have to pull the whole clutch pedal over to the side far enough to let that pin pull out of this, and then this drops down to the floor and you get it out. And once you get it out, you can get your brake switch off and all that. So that's how that comes out. Now this is different. So I can actually put all this back together, put this back in there, put the clutch back together, because this mounts above the clutch. So it mounts up higher. There's a hole up in the top of the bracket that this bolt here goes through and bolts the brake pedal at a higher mounting point. Sorry, I'm getting tired. At a higher mounting point than this pedal does. So that's the difference between these two. That's how it comes apart. I wish I could show it to you, but it's really kind of hard to show it to you. But just remember, this pin holds the brake switch in. To get that brake switch out, this clip holds the rod that goes from the clutch pedal through the brake pedal. Once you pull that out, you can actually slide the clutch pedal far enough over towards the outside of the car, towards the left side of the car to get this pedal out. But first you got to pull this pin and you got to release the clutch linkage from the clutch pedal to be able to move the clutch pedal over enough. And one other thing, the clutch pedal boot that goes through the firewall for the clutch pedal linkage was disintegrated, so I'm going to replace that while I got this thing apart. And so I got this all apart, so now we're ready to take the, oh, and by the way, you've got a rod that goes in between here that goes out to the master cylinder. So when you put this back together, remember this rod, even though this goes on here like that, there's a rod that goes in between it, and it goes in here. When I get the master cylinder, I'll show you that rod. It goes in between right here. Well, actually, it's this right here, this thing right here. So this brake switch goes like that, and then, well, let's see if we can get this thing assembled roughly on the bench. So this goes somewhat like, turn it sideways here. So this is coming out towards the inside of the car, obviously. It's going to turn that way, I believe. And this rod here that connects to it's going to connect to the booster now. So it goes basically like that. See that? So that's how that goes back together. When you put it back together, you want to put this rod in there, and then this rod's adjustable. So you can adjust it in and out to adjust your brake pedal height. Okay, and then of course your pin goes back in there to pin it back together. So that's how that goes back together. So you got to remember when you put everything back together that this rod coming from your booster goes in between this part of the and see, the cool thing is now that I got this thing orientated right, if I pull this out, I can actually pull this out of the way while that's still in there. So I can also replace it. See that? That's how that should go, it's just like that. So remember when you put this back together, it goes like that, put your pin in and everything's good. You got to connect your brake switch wiring so your brake lights work. Okay guys, so that's a quick tutorial on how to get the manual brake pedal assembly out. As you can see, there's quite a bit of difference between the two. So you got a switch to pull out, you got this clip up here, and you got two smaller clips, one holding the brake switch in, one holding the clutch pedal rod, linkage rod in. And once you get all that, you slide the clutch pedal over to the side, and then this will just drop straight down, and you can put it back together because this actually goes up behind it. And I'm kind of curious how this works, because I would think this would be in the way of the rod that goes through. So once I get it all together, I'll try to figure that out. But I'm not sure how that's going to work. It may be that because this bolts higher up, I'm guessing it probably bolts behind, like maybe back behind like that. See that? And if I compare those two, if I put the brake pedals at basically the same height and I move them in closer together, you can see that this arm is going behind this. So this, when it ends up, this is going to look something like this. It's going to be like that in position behind where the rod goes through there. So that's going to be the proper orientation of that. You don't want to put it up here because your brake pedal won't work. You got to put it behind it like that, behind the rod that goes through for the clutch pedal. Yeah, so you can tell by looking at that, that's going to be going behind that, okay? All right, guys, so that's it for tonight. I'm going to quit. It's already almost after 11 o'clock at night, so I'm going to quit for tonight, and I'll get back on this tomorrow. We're getting on it. Tomorrow I got to pull off the master cylinder, and we'll do that from inside the car, or inside the engine compartment, I should say. And then once we get that, we can start putting everything back together and see how this new system lines up and how it fits. All right, guys, thanks for watching. And well, actually, I shouldn't say it, because I'm going to continue this video tomorrow when I take it apart under the hood. All right, guys, we'll see you in the morning. Thanks. Alright guys, we're back on this 70 Mustang today, working on swapping over the crappy drum manual brakes to power disc brakes. So we got the brake pedal out of the car, out from underneath the dash. I showed you that last night before I went to sleep. And now we're on this. So I got to get the manual brake master cylinder out. I got to pull some of the lines out and get all that set up. And one of the first things I need to do is get this brace out of here. So let's do that first. And then we'll get down in here and we'll look at all this and figure out what all we have to do. Oh my God. What all we have to do to get this thing apart. And this screw that I'm unscrewing right now, again, wasn't even tight. I mean, I can literally, where's the other one at? See that? I can grab the ratchet down here and break that loose. I should have to grab it up here to break it loose. So these aren't tight either. Alright. I guess it makes it easy to get it off, but it's not right either, so. Alright. We don't have to take this one off because the brace only goes to the back two, so we gotta, you can leave that one on, just take these two off. Put those on the table. Then we got to come back here and get these, and they're probably not tight either. No, they're not. Wow. Gotta be kidding me. Not tight at all. Not even a little bit tight. Dropped the washer. I gotta go try to find that. Somewhere down there. Actually, I don't want to put that there because it's bracket's gonna drop off here in a minute. Once I take this bolt loose, it's not even tight either. Okay, well I managed to save that washer and not drop it. One good thing is these are stainless steel bolts, so at least they're not going to rust. Which I'm surprised they use stainless steel bolts on these. So we got to get this brace out of the way. All right. Now we got that brace out of the way. Let me get you guys in here so you can look at what this looks like before I disassemble it. See what it looks like down in there. Okay, so this is the manual brake master cylinder. So it's got, there's a bolt here and a bolt there, but those, the only purpose they serve right now is to hold the brace that goes underneath the dash that the brake pedal and the clutch pedal mount to. So that's what those two bolts are for. There's a bolt down there for the master cylinder. There's a bolt on this side that you can't see for the master cylinder. So we got to take those out. And we got to take the brake lines loose from the master cylinder itself and also from the proportioning valve. So we've got to take those loose, take those off. We're not going to reuse those. So we're going to pull the master cylinder off. We're going to pull these brake lines off. And then we also have to pull down there on the bottom of the proportioning valve. You can see one line there, one line there, and one line here. So this one here goes to the front brakes on the driver's side. That one there goes to the front brake on the passenger side. And the one back there in the back goes to the rear brakes. So we have to take the one in the back off because we're going to, when we put the new master cylinder on here, we're going to run a line from there to the adjustable proportioning valve that came with the kit. And then we're going to run a line from the other side of the proportioning valve back to there. So that's how this works to change it over from manual brakes to power disc brakes. Really, I don't know why it just didn't give you a disc brake proportioning valve. You could just put in there and just switch it to power brakes with the correct proportioning valve. I don't understand that, but maybe nobody makes one. I don't know. One thing I did notice here, I don't know how well you guys can see this. Here's the plug for the brake light, and as you can see, it's not plugged in. And I don't know exactly for sure, but I think probably the reason this is unplugged, or at least one of the reasons it's unplugged, is because if you watch my other videos, you see that the adjusters on the brakes were in the wrong place. If you remember right, the adjuster for the left rear brake was on the right front, and the adjuster for the right front brake was on the left rear. So you switch those around and it would have worked properly, but the mechanic was too lazy to check that, and it's very obvious to me because I'm finding loose bolts and everything all over the place. So they basically just threw this car together. They didn't try to do it correctly, and when they put it together, however it ended up is how it stayed. But with the left side adjuster being on the right side and the right side adjuster being on the left side, the brakes wouldn't adjust right. The pedal would have too much play in it, which probably caused that light to come on. And rather than fix it, they just unplugged it. Again, more incompetence. So they just unplugged it so the light would stay out. Okay, so now we got to take all this apart, and we're going to have probably some brake fluid, a little bit of brake fluid mess, but it shouldn't be too bad. I'm going to try to zoom this in. It's going to be a little bit hard for you guys to see down in there, but I'm going to try to zoom it in the best I can so you can see it. Back it out just a little bit. All right, let's try it about right there, and hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'll take the brake lines loose. The front one's a 9/16, the back one's a 1/2 inch. That brake line there's actually tight, which I'm surprised. It's the first thing I've encountered on this car that was actually tight. But that's good, since it's a brake line. You definitely don't want it to be, hopefully my big fat head's not in the way. I don't know, maybe it is. You gotta get that line loose. And then we also gotta take it loose at the proportioning valve, and that looks like it's a 3/8. Let me get a 3/8 wrench. Okay. And I grabbed a 7/16 just in case we got one of those in here. Now I'm taking the line off the proportioning valve. And it's also tight. Hopefully it's not too tight. Nope, got it to break loose. You want to be careful when you're taking these brake line fittings loose, because it's very easy to strip them out to where a wrench won't fit on them anymore. And if that happens, you got to try to finagle a pair of vice grips in there to get it clamped on there so you can take them loose. Probably can't see much here, but I'll show you once I get it out. I'll show you what this line looks like. It's long-winded. And it's kind of hard to get in here too, so it's taking its time coming out. There we go. Okay. Oh wow. I didn't realize this, but again, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Yeah, the line that I've got loose there, the one that goes on the front of the master cylinder, it actually goes to the back of the proportioning valve. So the front goes to the back and the back goes to the front. So I got to take the back one loose. I took the front one loose thinking that the front went to the front, but it doesn't. So now I got to take the back one loose. And it's even harder to get to. And guess what? It's not a 3/8, it's a 7/16. So I guess it's a good thing I got this wrench. Wow. Okay. All right, that one came loose. I think it did anyhow. Double check. Yep, that one's loose. Come on. Good grief. think I might be able to unscrew that by hand now if I can get my hand in there. I'll say that, but it's not unscrewing. Nope, it's not going. All right, we'll continue to use a wrench then. Sorry if I don't have a very good angle for you guys to see here, but it's a tight fit in here with this big motor in here. There's not a lot of room. But I'll show it to you once I get it out so you can see it. The good news is getting the other line off is going to be easy because I already got one side of it off because I thought I was taking off the front one, but I wasn't because the front one goes to the back of the proportioning valve. Almost got it. It's just really hard to... There it goes. Okay. Alright, this is the line. Let me get this brake fluid out of it because it's dripping everywhere. I don't want to make a big mess. Okay. So this is the line that is on the front of it. This one here is on the front of the master cylinder, and this goes to the back of the proportioning valve. This is a 9/16, this is a 7/16. So that's the line that goes there, okay? That's that line. And now we gotta get the line that goes to the rear of the master cylinder in the front of the proportioning valve. And again, this one here was a 9/16. I believe this one's a 1/2 inch. Yep, it's a 1/2 inch. And it wasn't even tight. Wow. I just literally I didn't even have to break it loose. That's not good at all. Okay. You know what I'm going to have to do, guys? I'm going to have to go raise this car up. I have to go to the back of the car and check all the brake lines back there and make sure they're all tight, because it wouldn't surprise me if they're not. This is ridiculous. I'm glad this guy decided to let me do this to this car, because I don't know how long he could have driven it without it being a danger to him because of this stuff that's not even tight. Drop that one. Okay, now that's bizarre. So here's the rear line that goes to the rear of the master cylinder here, which is a 1/2 inch, and the front of the proportioning valve, which is 3/8. Here's the weird part, and here's another reason why that brake light was on. There's no brake fluid in this. It's completely dry. There's literally, I mean, there's nothing dripping out of it. When I took it off, nothing came out of it. So there's no brake fluid in it. It's not even, doesn't even have brake fluid in it. Wow. I'm curious to see what happens when we take this master cylinder off, because from what I could see, the rear brakes on this car weren't even working. That's incredible. Okay, I'm not sure how that happens. One other problem I see here, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Yeah, you see the green wire running along the firewall right there. It goes underneath the master cylinder, and it goes through a hole over here. And when I put that when I put that booster and bolt that booster up here, that line's going to be crushed. So I have to take that brake line, or that brake line, that wire, that green wire, and it comes down and connects to the coil right here. It's actually the tachometer wire, the tachometer signal. It tells the tachometer what RPMs the engine's turning over. So I got to take that green wire out because they put it in the wrong place. So I got to reroute that somewhere through the firewall and reconnect it. But first we got to get the master cylinder out, and I believe it's a 1/2 inch, looks like. No, it's a 9/16, okay. So it's a 9/16, but I got to get a little extension to put on this ratchet. Let me get these wrenches off of here because I don't need them anymore. I don't want to drop one of them on the paint job. Let's get that out of the way. Now we need an extension to get this master cylinder out of here. We've already got it disconnected on the inside. So we should be able to take these 2 bolts out. This master cylinder should be ready to come right out after that. Let's see how tight they are. Well, that one there's actually pretty tight. That's good. But I can also tell you this master cylinder's been in this car a long time, so it's a good possibility when they restored this car they didn't do anything with the master cylinder. I don't know. And I'm going to leave that bolt in because it's easy to reach, and this one here is a little harder. So I'm going to try to get this one all the way out first. Sorry if you guys can't see too well in here. I'm trying to get in here and get to this thing. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Once I get it out, I'll show it to you. I know it's probably hard to see right now. Dang it. Grief. And this green wire. That green wire is really tight underneath the master cylinder. I'm going to have to cut the zip tie and give it some slack. All right. Cut the zip tie here. There we go. Yeah, that gave me a little bit of slack on that green wire. So I can get it loose. Or so I can get the master cylinder out, I should say. All right. All right. Come on. about ready to come out of there. All right, we got one master cylinder bolt out. Now we got to get the other one. One on the other side. Okay, there we go. All right, so here's the master cylinder. You guys can see that it's kind of old and crusty. And look, see that? There's brake fluid in there. Look at the rear one. Nothing, it's completely dry. I wonder if there's even any fluid in here. I wonder if anybody ever even put any fluid in there. I don't know. But you can tell this thing's been on there a while. It's pretty old, pretty crusty looking. Let's take this and clamp it in the vise and pop the lid off and see what's inside of it. But you got a bolt here and you got a bolt here. So I loosened this one up first, and then I took this one all the way out because it's harder to reach because it's kind of underneath here where you can't reach it very well. I took that one all the way out and lift this one in so the master cylinder wouldn't just fall out on the ground. And then I finished loosening this one up and then took it out. So that's what it looks like. There's the rod that comes out of it. This goes to your brake pedal. It's got a plastic sleeve in there. You can see that plastic sleeve. It's in there. So let's go clamp this in the vise, and then we'll open it up and see what's inside of it, because I'm curious if there's even any brake fluid in the back reservoir at all. Okay. All right, let's clamp it in here so I can get this lid off. Okay. You guys ready? What's in there? Wow. Oh my God. Okay. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but I'll get you in here where you can see it. Here's what we got. See that? The front reservoir is about 3/4 full. The back reservoir is empty. Both of your little bellows are all the way out because they're both low. They're both low on fluid. And if you look in the bottom of that reservoir, look at that. I don't even know what that is, man. There's like freaking rust and goop, all kinds of crap. Look at that. Jeez. Wow. Okay. That's not what you want to see when you open up a master cylinder on a car that you've been driving. You don't want to see that. But that's definitely a problem. I'm really super glad I convinced this guy to upgrade to the disc brakes in the front, because this isn't even safe to drive. That's just garbage. And that's why no fluid came out of that brake line whenever I disconnected it, because there wasn't any fluid in the master cylinder to come out. Good grief. All right. Now let's go back over here to the car. Again, I'm sorry if I was blocking your view when I was taking this stuff apart, but it's just a tight area in there. It's hard to get in there, so there's not a whole lot I can do about it. But now that I've got the master cylinder out, let's zoom in there, and you can see where the master cylinder, the hole where it went in, and you can see the 2 bolt holes right there on either side. And then you got 2 more bolt holes up here that hold the brace in on the inside, but I got to take these 2 bolt holes out, those 2 bolts out, because now I got to put the booster in that spot. So this master cylinder is definitely not in the best condition. It's probably usable. It probably just needs to be cleaned, and it can be reused, but it's definitely wasn't safe to be driven with that way, that's for sure. Okay, so let me look in here. All right, so I got to get you guys in here and show you this. Let me get a light so you can see better. Damn, I should have done that to start with, huh? Makes it a lot better. So let me show you what else I found in here just now. And I'm not sure why it's this way, but we'll look and see. So you've got, okay, oh wow, I'm like 4 times there, okay. So, dang it. Of course, the first thing I have to do is knock my light down. First thing you'll notice is we got the steering column where it comes through the firewall here. And right there's a bolt that holds it in place. Right there's a bolt that holds it in place. Dadgummit, come on. Right there's a bolt that holds it in place. Well, over here, where there's supposed to be a bolt, there's just a hole in the firewall. They didn't even bother to replace that bolt, that missing bolt. So I need to find a bolt and put in that, because that's a hole that water can get into the car with. And then the other thing I notice is below that hole, there's a spring down there. See that spring hooked to that clip? Well, look at this, if I can get my hand down in there. See that? That spring is hooked to nothing. I'm not sure why or what it goes to, but it's not hooked to anything. It's just dangling in the air. So I got to figure out where that spring goes, and I assume I have to connect it to something. I don't know. It almost looks to me like it would go up here and connect to this arm, this clutch arm, because there's a notch. I'm not sure why you guys can see this. My phone is not focusing very well. Focus, phone, come on. There's a notch. Let me move this light down a little bit, maybe. There. Yeah, see this notch right here? Maybe this spring is supposed to go in that notch to help pull this clutch arm back. That's your clutch arm. I think that spring is probably exactly what it's supposed to. I think it's supposed to go in this notch, but it's the wrong size. And so it's not, so they just threw it down there and left it there. Again, makes no sense at all to me. But I need to figure out, if you guys know what that spring is for, let me know. Because I'm not sure, but I'm guessing it's probably supposed to connect to the clutch arm somewhere. That's what I'm thinking. And this boot here is like in pieces. See that? I had the guy ordered a new one, the car owner order a new one, because that's like in pieces. So that needs to be taken off, thrown in the garbage. Because again, we got a giant hole in the firewall that water can come right into the passenger compartment with. So we got to fix all that. All right, now let me show you the proportioning valve. You can see what I did while I'm in here. So here's your proportioning valve. So I took this line loose. This line here went to the front bail on the master cylinder. This line here went to the rear one, and this was the one that had no brake fluid in it at all. And I don't know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because this line here goes to that brake line, which goes to the rear brakes. This one here goes to this one and that one, which is the front brakes. So right now, when I drove this car over here, the master cylinder front brake bail had no fluid in it. So this thing was basically operating off, was actually operating off one rear brake, because the other one had the wrong adjuster in it. So the way this car was when I brought it over here was very, very, very dangerous. I'm very glad nothing happened on the way over here. But that's how you're proportioning. Well, I got to take this line loose too. This is the line. I'm actually going to raise the car up and verify this goes to the rear brakes. I'm pretty sure it does. So let me pause the video and raise the car up, and we'll verify this line goes to the rear brakes. And while I'm up there, I'll also check all the fittings in the back there. I need to check this fitting. I need to check that fitting. To check all these fittings and make sure that they're tight, because the one on the master cylinder was not. So that's how your proportioning valve looks. Let me get this thing raised up in the air, and we'll look at the brakes underneath and see where they go. All right, I'll be back in a minute. Hold on. Sorry, my guys. So I'm looking underneath the car here. And there's two brake lines here that come down from the proportioning valve, and the one in the front goes over to the passenger side front brake, and the one in the rear, this one here, the one closest to the firewall, it comes down here and goes back to the rear brakes. I can't really see where it connects to the proportioning valve because it's kind of out of the way, but one thing I want to check while I got this thing up in the air, I want to check these brake line connections. And let's see if any of them are loose. That one's good and tight. That one was slightly loose, but not enough to matter. We got one up here that connects to the soft hose. Oh, well, I gotta get, it's gonna take two hands to check that one. I'll have to check it later. I can't get to it with one hand. I gotta have a backup wrench on it. That one's tight. And then there's one more right here. and it's tight as well. So from what I can tell, the brake lines in the back are all tight. I got a connection fitting up there that I need to check that goes to the front brake on the passenger side. I need to check that when I get this thing down and make sure that's tight. One other thing I see while I'm under here, I don't know, what do I do with my light? Jeez, I just had it. Oh. One other thing I see, the power steering hose right there. See the kink in it? It's got a big kink in it, and it's got a union in it. So I'm sure they probably kinked it and then they cut it because they couldn't get it loose because it wouldn't come loose when they tried to get it loose. So I need to pull that power steering line off and replace it because it's kinked. It's not going to work properly, and it looks like it up there, right here, it's got some damage to it, so that probably needs to be replaced. I don't know if it's leaking or not, but it's definitely kinked. So we need to clean that up and probably replace that line as well. So I'm going to clean that up real quick while I got this thing up in the air, since I'm here anyhow. I'll go ahead and clean that up. So from what I can tell, the brake lines underneath are all pretty tight. I think they're probably okay. I need to check that one in the rear. All right, so let me do that. I'm going to clean this up, and then I'll drop this thing back down, and we'll keep working on what we've got going on up above. Hold on.